Welcome back to the channel. This week we are highlighting what I'm calling the chunky funky cardigan. And if you are a lover of the chenille or the boucle kind of lovely soft look, this could be a project for you. I am doing this chunky sweater as a birthday gift for someone, and they love this type of yarn and the big kind of oversized kind of bulky sweater look. And there are a million videos on YouTube tutorials of how to do these sweaters. So I'm just going to walk through this week our experience putting one together and giving a few tips about what we learned. Now, we got this yarn at the end of winter sort of sale clearance, and this brand had a lot of colors. And so we bought initially 5 bundles and did 3 colors that we just thought really went well together and that this person would actually really love. Most of the YouTube examples and tutorials kind of do a combination of colors in stripes or fairly basic kind of blocking. And I knew this person didn't really like stripes. They don't wear a lot of stripes, but we thought we could shift it up a bit. And I'm just playing around with stitch fiddle over the last couple of weeks and kind of again trying to look at how we could make it look more like blocks of colors instead of stripes, in particular on the front where they'd kind of notice it the most. So I started off the project, and again, almost all of the YouTube videos we watched definitely had well over 20 as a chain. Most of them like 24, 26, 28. And I always recommend, especially if you're doing something as a gift, if you could get a piece of clothing that this person loves to wear, it is going to be really important as a helpful size guide. And so when we started off with chaining 20, I immediately I'm looking to test my gauge here, but knowing for sure this is way too big. And it's, again, very helpful to have a piece so we didn't get, too far into the construction and realize this was going to be enormous. So the sweaters are enormous anyways. They're built to be really big, really chunky, really soft, really lovely. It's like wearing a big blanket hug, but this is going to be, way too big. It's just going to overwhelm the person that we're making it for. So when I do, again, a weight 7, so they have 6 weight and 7 in this brand, I was about 3 stitches every 4 inches and knew that we just needed to sort of ignore the tutorials and go back and frog this out and start with a much smaller chain. Now I'm also thinking that I'm going to do one type of construction for this project, and I ended up switching to a different. So when I looked at all the YouTube videos, they kind of fall into 2 construction buckets. One, which is what we thought we would start with, is making a back panel, 2 front panels, 2 sleeves, and then putting it together. And so as I start this project off, I am thinking I'm chaining the teal, which is going to be actually at the shoulder, because the chain gives you like a really nice tight kind of bar to hang the sweater off of. And as we finish off the hem, it's going to be the chunkier, thicker kind of bind off. So that is my assumption going in. And again, I suggest that you use just 1 thumb or 1 finger per loop here as your sort of tension gauge. So if you have seen my knit blanket by hand videos, I use 2 or 3 fingers for each loop when I'm making a big blanket. But you want the sweater to not be full of holes. So if you like that tighter tension, again, a thumb or a finger loosely is the perfect kind of gauge as you kind of go through and easily do this. Now, if you've done knit blankets before, I would also say this is a project you could do in an afternoon. If you are a beginner and you don't have experience hand knitting, do not panic. The back is a great small piece to start with. You just need some practice, and it is something you could definitely do in a weekend as a project. So we are making, again, an 18 chain back that is sort of the right width, we thought, for a size medium. Again, it is a loosely fitting sweater. It's not supposed to be, very tight. And if you are over 20 chain, especially with this weight yarn, I would say you're much too big. Now, in the YouTube tutorials, you're also going to see that there's everything from a crop, really short sweater to a longer, something you want past your belt buckle kind of sweater. So I would say you are definitely going to be somewhere between 20 and 24 inches in length, again, depending on the style and the look that you're going for. When we measure the jacket, some of the things that we know this person loves to wear, we're looking at probably doing a 24-inch length for this particular birthday gift. But again, very easy to change the length to suit your own style. You can again hold it up and measure it. And as we bind off the back piece, we are doing exactly the same bind off we do for all of the blankets. So there's nothing special about the way we're going to bind off. It's very simple. And again, it's just a straight knit stitch, pulling the loop in from the back, and you're doing that for the whole sweater. So there's really nothing complicated. I do say that if you're a beginner and you've not done a lot of knit blankets, I can find sometimes for newbies, it helps if you flip it over so that the purl side is facing up and do your bind off with the inside facing you. And if you are a little bit uneven in your tension, it kind of, I find, hides it. And so when you flip it back over and look at the right side, you get a lovely clean bind off across the bottom of a sweater. So again, not to be too perfect, because that's the beauty of making something handmade. It looks handmade, which is part of the attraction. Doesn't have to be perfect. And with the bind offs, you're just trying to make even, again, measured loops as you go across. Your loops are just going to be 2 fingers, a little bigger as you do the bind off, in order to make that nice kind of finished seam across the bottom. So we are off to the races. I'm thinking this is going to turn out to be lovely. Not something I would wear, but again, I'm not a big fan of the sort of chenille. I do love the softness of it. As I tried this on to model it, it is beautiful. It's just like wearing a big cozy blanket. Now I'm ready to kind of wrap up the project, and I get told by the person who went yarn shopping with me, who knows this person very well, that there's a bit of a problem. And that is because we did not know they do not like to wear the color teal. So the birthday girl loves the color teal, but does not wear the color teal. And of course, this is not something that is an easy frog, because I actually chained with teal. So I would have to take the entire piece apart in order to eliminate teal. But we do a little bit of investigating, and sure enough, there's not a single teal piece in the wardrobe. She really doesn't like to wear it. And so in order to make the perfect birthday gift, we frog it all out. And the next couple of slides are just going to quickly walk you through us recreating and doing all of the steps that we walked through in order to recreate the exact thing that we just did in 2 colors instead of 3. So I did go back to the store. There was still a 40% off sale. I got another bundle of the Earl Grey yarn just to make sure I had enough, and I did need 5 bundles to do a size medium. But again, depending on the complication of the pattern that you pick or the stripes, you may, get away with a little bit of less. But I did go back and get more yarn. We chain 18 exactly as we had done, start working on the back, do exactly what we did for the first version. But now I have seen a video that I think is brilliant, and I'm going to change the construction. So I did do the back panel 24 inches in length, but then there is this great tutorial, and I'll put a link in the description, that says make this in 1 piece. So instead of doing seaming at the shoulders, just do 7 stitches, because I had 18 across. So my first panel on the left side is 7 loops. Then I cast off or bound off 4 loops for the neckline, and then continued to work the 7 loops on the right. And that way you do not have to create any complicated, assembly pieces at the shoulder length. So this just saves people who don't like, having to put pieces together, because originally that was, a lot of pieces with 2 separate front panels. So I do think if you're a beginner, this worked out great, and I would recommend this is the easier solution. keep your working yarn going, work down the right side, and then come back and finish off the panel on the left side. Now there's one tip that I will flag. I'm not sure most people would notice this, but if you look really carefully at the neckline here where I've cast off those 4 stitches and then continued working on the right side, it created this lovely rounded neckline that looks beautiful. On the left side where you are stopping and you have to come back and add the yarn in and continue working that front panel, you end up with this V because, again, of where you started that cast off and pulled that first stitch over to the right to cast it off. So it is something I noticed, and it was bugging me as I was looking at this, and we were playing around with that panel because I had it as a solid color panel. Again, this person doesn't really like stripes. Do we want to have it solid? Do we want to put, color blocks in it? I ended up going back and frogging this out just because we were playing with color, and a quick loop to pull the first stitch here over to the left makes this V disappear and matches that lovely curved neckline to the right. So again, if you didn't do it, I don't think people would notice, but I am just highlighting it. It might be a tip that if you do get bothered by this shift in the neckline, a quick loop in here will make that little V gap here disappear. So do it before you start working then down on that panel on that one side. And again, I'm a lefty, so I even knit and crochet left to right. This might be on your right side if you are right-handed. But either way, you end up with a little V here. A quick loop will make that kind of match and look exactly like the right side. So do play around with colors, do play around with different kind of patterns to it. But again, we have 18 stitches across the back panel, so we're just doing a 7 front panel, 4 neckline opening, 7 right panel, and it worked out beautifully. So you just, again, if you did 24 inches for the back, you're going to match that measure for your front panels. Then you're just going to fold the piece in order to do less assembly. Now we just actually assemble, we kind of finish off the hem here just the same on the bottom as the blanket finish on the back, and hem from the side bottom up to the underarm to put the piece together. So you don't get rid of your working yarn, until you kind of seam this together on each of the sides. And that actually then closes up the blanket. So this method had far less assembly and was a bit easier from a construction method. So pretty straightforward as you can kind of put it together and look at lots of different options. And then because I had such a long working yarn left over, this is your choice because there was 2 ways of doing the arms. So you do have to attach them, and about half of the video said start at the cuff and work your way up to the jacket, or the other piece were start at the shoulder here and work down. So because I hem up to the armhole and I have a lot of working yarn left, I decided to start at the actual piece and work my way with decreases down to the cuff. So I had a 10-inch armhole opening. I just continued to make loops, and that made 10 loops for working the arms, and you just work around in a circle and continue to knit exactly the same way you do for the main body, pulling the loops in from the back for a knit stitch, and you can work the arms all the way down to the cuff. Now the person I'm measuring their sweater of has about an 18-inch arm, so a shorter arm, and I was thinking I had to do 18 inches here. I forgot about the drop shoulder and I hadn't tried the sweater on yet. So when you do put it on, you don't need a huge long arm because, again, the shoulder drops quite a bit. So your arm measure will be shorter when you're actually taking that into account. And I do say use even numbers of stitches if you can on the arms, because if you are going to decrease to make a tight cuff, you will want to just put 2 loops together to decrease. And so that makes it very easy, again, if you have an even number of yarns. I'll show you pictures of what it would look like if you didn't do any decreases at the cuff and you just leave it as a wider cuff with a blanket bind off as we did on all the other hems, Or again, you can put one loop over top of another and do a decrease in order to make a tighter cuff. And it's kind of hard to see the detail in the chenille, much more detailed if you were using a different yarn to again finish off the cuff. But it was a really simple process. I did a decrease, then I did 2 additional rows of the smaller, tighter cuff, and then I did just the regular bind off as we did for all of the other pieces. So this would be a much too long sleeve, but a bigger, looser cuff if you didn't do any decreases, as an example. And the one on the left is actually the right length. So that is actually, the kind of right length to get an 18-inch arm. The one on the left, or your right, is the one I actually made far too long, thinking I had to make it 18 inches to the shoulder. So again, a very easy project, simple one afternoon, makes a lovely gift idea. It's super cozy, and I'm going to go ahead and block it and get it ready to give. So we have a birthday gift all ready to go, and we really appreciate all of your watching, all of your subscriptions, and we do appreciate and love all of the comments as well. So keep those coming, and we'll put links in the descriptions and on our Ravelry to reference.